Welcome to the Loving God, Loving Life Devotional. We're jumping into Matthew chapter 11 here. Here in 11, Jesus acknowledges John the Baptist's ministry and he rebukes some cities for their unbelief. Starting here in verse 2, John the Baptist, who was in prison, heard about all the things the Messiah was doing. So he sent his disciples to ask Jesus, "Are you the Messiah who we've been expecting? Or should we keep looking for someone else?" Jesus told them, "Go back and tell him," then just save space. He just tells him all the good things that have been happening. He jumps down to verse 6, and he added, notice the final thing Jesus wanted John the Baptist to hear. He added this, "God blesses those who do not fall away on account of me." As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began talking about him to the crowds. "I tell you the truth, of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist." What an amazing passage here. Jesus referring, his own cousin, John the Baptist, referred to as the greatest man who ever lived. You know, a lot of the most encouraging things in our life end up coming through the back door. Encouragement comes in a way that you would never expect. And this is one of the most encouraging things when you realize this, that the greatest man who ever lived, other than Jesus, obviously, the greatest man who ever lives was discouraged. He's sending messengers to find out if Jesus is actually the Messiah. Well, this is the same John who earlier had baptized Jesus, had proclaimed to the crowds that this is the one who I spoke of, who was following me. So John knew Jesus was the one, but yet, well, why is he discouraged? Why is he wondering? Why is he doubting? Well, he's in prison. He's in prison. Here's the good news to us. The good news, the encouraging thing is this, that even the greatest man who ever lived gets discouraged. You ever get discouraged? Ever? Well, if the greatest man who ever lived does, you probably will too. Yeah, he got discouraged. The greatest man who ever lived, it seems like he felt maybe that God was being unfair. That he knew Jesus was the Messiah, but Jesus, if you're the Messiah, if you're God on the earth, I mean, couldn't you do a little bit better for me? I mean, Jesus didn't even come to visit him in prison, for heaven's sakes. God, you're just not being fair. Anybody ever feel like God isn't being perfectly fair with you? God should be a little better. You ever feel that way? Well, so did John. And maybe the most fascinating thing is the greatest man who ever lived gets corrected, gets rebuked. There's no other way to take this. When Jesus says to him, "God blesses those who do not fall away on account of me," he's sending John the message that he needs, the message that we all need. Okay? You're going to face some difficulties. You're going to face some things you'd rather not. You're going to wish God would do things differently. And you're blessed when you don't fall away, when you just understand that God has set things up in ways that you're not always going to agree with or appreciate. But the blessed people don't get offended. They don't fall away. They trust God has a plan and a purpose. And those are the people who end up on top. Those are the people who end up loving life. Gang, we're going to stop and pray like we always do, that prayer for one. Gang, we want to live on mission. And the way we do that is every day. God, send us one person. Pray that. I hope you're praying that prayer with me every day. God, send me one person today to share your love with. If you pray that prayer, you're going to live on mission. Remember this, loving God is the only way you're going to end up loving your life.